So about 2 weeks ago, I put out a video talking about the story and the upcoming Monkey Island update, and how I was worried that it wasn't going to be enough to bring the dwindling player base back to the game. I voiced my concerns about the state of the game and how, as a live service game, Sea of Thieves are dropping the ball in many areas of their game right now, and that was why I myself had not been playing. Since then, a number of high-profile streamers and YouTubers have come out and spoken about their opinions and feelings on the state of the game right now. Notably, Happy Kraken put out a video talking about her feelings on the state of PvP and the general feeling among the community right now. Boxy Fresh has been seen playing Elden Ring quite frequently due to a lack of content on the Sea of Thieves. And more recently, Fuzzy Bond put out a tweet essentially saying that he was deeply disappointed with the game and that he was limiting his time playing until something was done to fix the issues. None of this is good for Sea of Thieves. Today, I want to talk about my feelings on the true state of the game and discuss whether this is the end for Sea of Thieves. Hello pirates, my name is Ellie and I post regular Sea of Thieves videos on this channel. If you want to stay up to date with the game, then remember to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I put up a new video. So first of all, I want to preface all of this by saying that I do love Sea of Thieves. I've always loved Sea of Thieves, and I still have a great time sailing the seas with my friends. There are no other games on the market that scratch the itch that Sea of Thieves does, and with its shared open world and random adventure experiences, it is one of my favourite games of all time. I know a huge number of content creators and players will say the same thing. Having said that, I think it's pretty safe to say that the majority of the core player base are not happy right now. There are a number of reasons as to why I think this has happened, and I'm going to talk about each one, but I think the reason we've reached the stage of content creators openly moving on to other games or calling out the state of the game is because these problems have mounted over the years, and in combination they are having a massive effect on the quality of the game. Now, if you ask pretty much anyone what the number one issue in Sea of Thieves is right now, 90% or more of them will say cheating. Since the introduction of Hourglass PvP, the game has seen a significant increase in cheaters. Rare even confirmed this when they tried to address this with an article posted to their website on the 29th of June. They basically said that of the 7,000 accounts they've banned in the last 12 months, 5,000 of them were in the last 6 months. So quite clearly there has been a significant uptick in cheating. Rare, of course, stated that they're doing all they can, they have a zero tolerance policy, and that they are always working on the security for their game. The problem is, this isn't really going to reassure anyone, and unfortunately, while it's great that they have a zero tolerance policy, and are working on banning accounts, or accounts are being detected by their in-house systems, it's obviously not really doing enough, because cheating is at its peak right now, according to the player reports that are being sent in. Shiny Ray touched on this in his latest video, but essentially this problem with cheating goes all the way up to Microsoft level, and as much as Rare might be trying to stop cheating, unless Microsoft back them up with more extensive bans and tools to remove cheaters from their game, then these hackers will just continue to create alt accounts and even after a ban, be back in the game before you can blink. This isn't a problem that's limited to Sea of Thieves though. There are plenty of online games that have cheating problems, and a dedicated anti-cheat isn't even a real solution these days. In all honesty, I'm not really sure what Rare can do at this point. The game is on Game Pass, and so for just $10 or even a $1 trial, you can access this game. You can also just change out the Xbox account associated with your purchase account, so essentially buy the game once and access it with endless Xbox accounts. I do think it could be a good idea to lock Hourglass PvP behind some kind of effort or access quest. Destiny 2, for example, ended up putting access to Trials of Osiris, its dedicated endgame PvP mode, behind a quest which involves playing the other parts of the game for some significant time before being given access. It doesn't really work to completely remove cheating from the playlist, but it does reduce the number of hackers that can be bothered to go through all that again to get into the playlist again right after being banned. In Sea of Thieves, perhaps Rare could consider locking access to Hourglass PvP behind reaching a certain level with the main factions in the game. Hourglass was never really designed for the beginner player anyway, so I don't think it would hurt the average new player. Locking access behind a small amount of adventure mode activities would at least deter some of the cheaters from immediately jumping back in with an alt account. Now, obviously, cheating does affect the PvP community much more than the PvE community, but there seems to be this assumption that because the biggest issue is cheating, that it's only the PvP players who are mad about the state of the game. However, there are plenty of issues affecting adventure mode. Personally, my biggest gripe with the PvE or adventure mode side of the game is the decision that Rare seem to have made to invest a lot of their time and effort into adventures as a way to drive the story and evolve the world. The problem is, this content is time limited, and extremely time limited to mostly 2 or 3 weeks, and it just isn't evolving the world at all. The latest adventure has just come to an end, and both the secret vault which was accessible during the adventure and the burning blade being rebuilt on Shipwreck Bay have just vanished, as if nothing happened. If you were to pick up the game right now and you'd never played it, beyond the static tall tales, which are more like historic events or a background lore adventure, you would have no idea what was happening in the world right now. And the only way to find out what had happened would be to go and watch Captain Falcor's recap of the adventures on YouTube. This is bad for new players, bad for returning players, bad for existing players who can't show their friends the story of this game. How are you supposed to invest in an adventure game when you don't know what's happening or what has happened in the past? Rare need to stop investing in content that does not stay in the game. This last adventure was the perfect time to start evolving the world and leave the burning blade being rebuilt on Shipwreck Bay. That would have been ideal to make it feel like something was changing since our decision to resurrect Flameheart. But it's vanished, and anyone who hasn't played for a few weeks won't even know that it was there. They wouldn't know that it had been there. To make matters a little worse, in response to community feedback about these items being removed, Mike Chapman has responded on Twitter to player concern about this by saying they understand, but that things will change in July, and that they are working on bringing the vault back, and that the figurehead which was still in Wanda's hideout will also be removed. It just feels like a lot of playing catch-up is going on, and like they're scrambling to fix issues well beyond when they should have been foreseen. I mean, this adventure was delayed by weeks, and yet they're still playing catch-up? Something very strange is going on. This game isn't feeling like it's evolving, mainly because nothing has actually changed since Port Merrick, and the world just doesn't feel like it's growing or becoming rich with content as the years go by. It's literally a barren wasteland where some adventure happened, but you weren't there, so tough luck. Not only can't you play it, we're not even going to tell you what happened. This goes beyond just an issue of thinking that FOMO, or fear of missing out, will keep players logging in. It's about bad story delivery and a lack of understanding for the new player onboarding experience, and the returning players' re-immersion into the game. Even existing players are getting so bored with the world because it's stagnant, nothing is changing. I get the argument that you had to be there is good grounds for creating hype around content of the game, but the problem is these adventures are time limited to such a small window of just 2 to 3 weeks, and as of yet have not really been changing the world, and definitely not often enough. Putting every major story beat in an ongoing adventure into a time-limited feature of a game is just ridiculous. It puts the story in a position of being disposable, and therefore people don't care, because if they aren't allowed to play it, why would they care? Why haven't Rare utilised the portals in this game to let players sail to instanced servers where they can replay the adventures and play this amazing story of their game? Now, aside from the time-limited stuff, there are other issues with PvE and adventure mode, in my opinion. We have not had a new world event in years. The last one was the Fort of Fortune, and that was released in April 2021. Sure, they recently did an overhaul of the world events and changed the balancing and made it easier for solo players, but in terms of actual new content to play, world events have been lacking for years. With nothing new on the horizon, the world feels old and boring. We need something new, and really for a live service game, a new world event or activity should be being added with every big expansion or update. Not necessarily seasonally, but definitely at least once a year. When Sea of Thieves shines the most is the shared world open battles over world events. With no new world events, things are stale for a lot of players. Admittedly, things were great at the start of Season 9, with the Chest of Fortune giving players a reason to go after Forts of Fortune again. But as players got their commendations completed, that died down again. Adding back the Flameheart fleet was a bizarre move. No real story explanation was given, and instead of the angry head in the sky, we've now got a skinny veil tornado that is avoided as much as the skeleton fleet. New activities and new world events are an essential part of a live service game, and they need to invest more in new activities for players to get involved in. They are planning on moving the Chest of Fortune around in future seasons, but nothing has been confirmed as to where it will go next. And if it goes the same way as the Forts of Fortune in Season 9, then any excitement around an existing world event will be short-lived anyway. When was the last time we had something new added to the sandbox? Blunderbombs, firebombs, fireworks, cannon rowboats? Season 5 was the last big quality of life update in my book, and these updates usually bring more tools to the sandbox. We're in Season 9 and nothing new has been added for us to play with. It makes things worse when fun tools are added temporarily for adventures and then taken away again. Reaper rowboats are a great example of something that could have remained in the game as a rare spawn, but nope. Rare do seem to have stopped using their tools not rules ethos and are heading in a direction that seems to just be pushing time-limited content out, with no new long-term additions to the game world. This is just not the way to help a live service game thrive. There just doesn't seem to be any content plan or model for this game anymore. They added seasons a few years ago but haven't really innovated on them, and you could argue that the content has been being delivered at a slower pace since they added seasons. We had a roadmap once, and don't get me wrong, roadmaps are rarely a good thing to share with your customers. They almost always change and people get mad. But we have to have something, some idea of where we're heading. We had some banger seasons with Captaincy and Hourglass, but since then, the focus seems to have shifted. You might say, we're only on Season 9, and if Season 7 with Captaincy and Season 8 with Hourglass were bangers, then what's the problem? The problem is that seasons are way too long, and the content added to each season is never enough to keep players engaged for the entire season. And this is compounded by the fact that the renown system for the Season Pass and Plunder Pass can be leveled to max in just a few hours. Players just don't have a reason to stick around all season, and so we get these big lulls in player engagement, and it just doesn't feel good for the community as a whole to have long periods of time where there's nothing to do in the game. I've thought about this quite a bit, and Sea of Thieves is quite unique in its delivery as a live service game. Most live service online games have a paid-for yearly expansion and run on a seasonal model, or at least a lot of them do, and the most popular ones work this way. Rare opted for almost a free-to-play style update system a long while back, and sometimes I do wonder if perhaps that decision is now starting to age badly. Obviously, you have to either buy the game at a very reasonable 35 quid, or you can sign up for Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate, and you can even get a $1 trial. As a Microsoft-backed game studio, sure, they don't need to worry as much as an independent studio, but when the Pirate Emporium is essentially the only real money that is being spent on Sea of Thieves by its player base, that has to eventually become an issue. There are no annual expansions to buy. The Plunder Pass can be purchased very easily every season without actually having to spend real money after the first one that you buy. Happy Kraken spoke in her video about how easy the Season Pass is to level up. Not only is it easy to level up, but the amount of ancient coins you get is plenty to buy the next Plunder Pass, and so you literally don't need to spend a penny after your initial Season Pass purchase. I think I've maybe bought 2 or 3 in 9 seasons, because I've always had enough ancient coins left from playing the previous season. This is great from a player perspective, but I do wonder if actually it's negatively impacting the financial side of things in terms of providing funding for future content. It really doesn't make sense from a business point of view. For a live service game, they need investment from their player base to fund future content. Every live service game does this. If this investment is purely limited to buying cosmetics through the Pirate Emporium, then it's not wild speculation to wonder if the lack of content coming to us is due to a lack of funds to invest in the right areas of the game. New world events, new activities, new tall tales, new game systems, tools to enhance the player sandbox. That has to be expensive, and I do wonder if the Pirate Emporium alone is making enough to cover this. If Rare aren't investing in their core veteran players and they're not really investing in the new player experience, then it makes you wonder where they are investing. As a live service game, it is a hard balance between pleasing your existing core community while also enticing new players. It feels like, at least at the moment, Sea of Thieves isn't appealing to either. Time-limited story content that isn't evolving the world or building on the game is just something I cannot get behind, and I'm really struggling to understand Rare's thought processes on this. Why would a new player come and play an adventure when they won't know what happened in the last one and can't play it to find out? It would be like starting a new TV series partway through and never getting to see the first half of the season. It would also be a real turn-off as a new player to experience some of the most unique combat in video games, the naval combat and deck fighting in Sea of Thieves, only to be pitted against cheaters the first day you play, which, let's face it, is a real possibility right now. And as for existing players, at least for me, I'm tired of seeing all the full ship cosmetic sets just being piled into the Emporium, and the odd sword or belt is the only thing being added to the gold shops. I'm tired of having nothing new to do. I'm tired of being told that something new and exciting is coming, only to be given a time-limited 2-week adventure with no new tools, activities, or content being added permanently to the game world. After the last adventure, everything has returned to how it was before, and it's as if what I did during the adventure just didn't matter, and it feels like for all intents and purposes it didn't even happen. So is Sea of Thieves a dead game? Is this the end for Sea of Thieves? I've seen some people saying that games have a lifespan and that 5+ years old, Sea of Thieves has had a good run. It's over. I really wholeheartedly hope not, and I really doubt it is the case. Most instances of games actually dying tend to lie with the developer giving up on the game, not the community. Rare have definitely not given up on Sea of Thieves, but I do think they need to speak to the community and explain to us why they think this way of storytelling is the right decision for the game. We need Joe Neate with his whiteboard to come out and bring Mike Chapman along and explain to us the reasoning behind this. Hopefully even their plans for future permanent additions to the game, because right now it feels like a series of missteps are putting the game in real jeopardy. Now things are likely to ramp up quite a bit in the next few weeks with the release of Monkey Island, Season 10, whatever that brings, although it's likely to be guilds, and of course new adventures and mysteries, hopefully actually driving the evolving world forward, but after this latest one, who knows? With new content hopefully coming at a faster pace going forward, we can maybe at least put this big content drought behind us. I still believe that time-limited content is not the place for a story to be told, but at least with new Tall Tales coming, some things will remain permanent additions to the game. I know this video has been super long, and I really appreciate you if you're still here listening to me ramble on. It's only because of how much I love this game. If I didn't still love Sea of Thieves and want the best for this game and the community, I just wouldn't be making these videos. It may come across as moaning, but really it's just frustration because I love the potential of this game. I want to play all the time, and I want Rare to add things to make me know life this wonderful pirate world. Right, that's it. Those are my thoughts on the state of the game. I want to move on to more positive things for my next videos, and I'm hoping that with new content on the horizon, there will be more positive things to talk about really soon. If you liked the video, then please do leave a like and subscribe for more Sea of Thieves content. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the seas.